You don't have to be the smartest or the funniest. You just have to make people feel important. That's what charisma is. And it's not a gift, it's a craft. In 90 days, you can learn how to speak so people listen, how to listen so people open up, and how to show up so people remember. Dale Carnegie believed that the most magnetic people are those who are most present. If you're ready to build real influence, the kind that can't be faked, this method will change the way you lead, speak, and connect. Subscribe to our channel if you're ready to master your mind, and tell us, where are you watching from? You know what fascinates me most about human nature? It's not our capacity for greatness, though that's remarkable. It's our ability to sense authenticity in others. Think about it. When was the last time someone tried to manipulate you with fake charm? How quickly did you feel it in your gut? I've spent decades teaching people the art of influence, and I'll tell you this. True charisma isn't about manipulation. It's about liberation. Liberation from the exhausting performance of trying to be someone you're not. Let me share something profound I learned while teaching a young executive in New York. He came to me frustrated, saying, "Mr. Carnegie, I've read all the books. I've practiced all the techniques, but something's missing." He was right. Something was missing himself. You see, he was so focused on appearing charismatic that he'd forgotten the fundamental truth. Charisma isn't a mask you wear. It's a window you open. Here's what most people don't understand about sincerity. It's not just about telling the truth. It's about being the truth. When you walk into a room, your body language, your tone, your energy, they're all telling a story. And if that story doesn't match your words, people feel it. They might not know why they feel uncomfortable around you, but they do. I've watched thousands of people transform their lives by embracing this simple principle. The fastest way to become magnetic is to become authentic. But let me ask you this. What's holding you back from being genuine? Is it fear? Fear that people won't accept the real you? Fear that authenticity might make you vulnerable? Here's the paradox that changed my life. The very things we think make us vulnerable, our imperfections, our struggles, our humanity, are what make us magnetic. I remember teaching a workshop in Chicago. A woman stood up, hands shaking, and shared a story about her biggest failure. The room fell silent, not because they were judging her, but because for the first time they were seeing her, really seeing her. In that moment of pure authenticity, she had more charisma than any polished speaker I'd ever seen. Let me give you 3 foundational principles of sincere charisma. First, embrace your natural rhythm. Stop trying to speak like someone else. Your natural pace, your natural tone, that's your signature. Refine it, yes, but never replace it. Second, practice radical presence. When you're talking to someone, be there, completely there. No rehearsing responses in your head, no scanning the room over their shoulder, just pure, undiluted attention. Third, cultivate genuine curiosity, not the kind you fake at cocktail parties. Real curiosity, the kind that makes you forget yourself because you're so fascinated by the person in front of you. Now, here's what most charisma experts won't tell you. The path to magnetic presence is often through discomfort. You'll have moments when being authentic feels risky, when staying present feels vulnerable, when real curiosity takes you into conversations you didn't plan for. But here's what I promise you. Those moments of discomfort are your opportunities for breakthrough. They're the moments when you build real trust, real connection, real influence. Remember this. Every time you choose authenticity over performance, you're not just building charisma. You're building character. And character, my friends, is charisma that lasts. In these next 90 days, I'm going to show you exactly how to develop this kind of authentic presence. But it starts with a decision to stop performing and start being, to trust that who you are, your real voice, your real story, your real presence, is enough. Because here's the truth. The most charismatic person in any room isn't the loudest or the most polished. It's the most genuine, the one who's brave enough to be real. Are you ready to be that person? Let me tell you a story that changed my understanding of human nature forever. Years ago, I was teaching a seminar in Philadelphia when a successful businessman approached me. He said, "Dale, I've made millions, but I can't seem to make friends. What am I doing wrong?" I watched him interact with others throughout the day. He was intelligent, well-spoken, and impeccably dressed. But there was one crucial thing missing. He never once made anyone else feel important. You see, we're living in an age of unprecedented loneliness. People are more connected than ever, yet feeling more invisible than ever. And here's what most people don't understand. The greatest hunger in human nature isn't for food, success, or even love. It's for appreciation, for recognition, for significance. Think about the last time someone truly made you feel important. Not with flattery or false praise, but with genuine recognition. Remember how that felt? That feeling, that's what we're going to learn to give others. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you made someone else feel truly significant? Not just with words, but with your entire presence. The secret to making others feel important lies in understanding this fundamental truth. Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Everyone carries dreams, fears, and struggles that you can't see. Your job isn't to fix them. Your job is to notice them. Here's what I've learned from decades of teaching human relations. People don't remember what you say nearly as much as they. Remember how you made them feel, and the feeling of being important, truly important, is the most memorable feeling of all. Let me share 3 principles that will transform how you make others feel. First, practice what I call significance. Scanning. When you meet someone, look for what makes them unique. What lights them up? What have they overcome? What do they take pride in? These aren't just conversation topics. They're keys to their sense of significance. Second, master the art of acknowledgement. Not just compliments, anyone can give those. I'm talking about specific, thoughtful recognition. Instead of saying, "Good job," say, "I noticed how you handled that difficult client with such patience." That kind of emotional intelligence is rare. Third, become a student of people's values. What matters to them? What do they stand for? When you acknowledge not just what people do, but who they are, their values, their principles, their character, you touch something deeper than ego. You touch identity. Here's a technique I've taught to thousands. The significance pause. When someone shares something with you, an achievement, a struggle, even a simple story, pause for a moment. Let the weight of what they've shared sink in. Then respond not just to their words, but to the meaning behind their words. I remember teaching this to a manager who was brilliant but had high turnover in his team. He started using the significance pause, and something remarkable happened. His team members started saying they finally felt seen. Productivity soared. Turnover plummeted, all because he learned to make people feel important. But here's the crucial distinction. This isn't about manipulation. It's about appreciation, real appreciation, the kind that comes from genuinely recognizing the value in others. Think of it this way. Every person you meet is carrying an invisible sign that reads, "Make me feel important." Not superior, not praised. Important. There's a difference. Now, here's what most people get wrong about making others feel important. They think it's about grand gestures or constant compliments, but real significance giving is subtler. It's in the small moments, the attentive silence, the remembered detail. The followed-up concern? Let me give you a practical challenge. In the next 24 hours, find 3 opportunities to make someone feel genuinely important, not through flattery, but through authentic recognition. Watch what happens, not just to them, but to you. Because here's the beautiful paradox. When you become someone who consistently makes others feel important, you become important to them. Not because you sought importance, but because you gave it. Remember this, the most charismatic people aren't those who demand attention, but those who give it. those who have mastered the art of making others feel significant. Are you ready to become that person? To make every interaction an opportunity to lift someone else's sense of worth? Because that's where true charisma begins, in the art of making others feel important. In all my years of teaching human relations, I've noticed something remarkable. The rarest commodity in our modern world isn't gold or diamonds, it's attention. Pure, undivided, uninterrupted attention. Think about your last conversation. Were you fully there? Or was part of your mind wandering to your phone, your to-do list, your next meeting? Don't worry, I'm not here to judge. I'm here to show you something transformative. Here's what most people don't understand about attention. It's not just about hearing words. It's about creating a space where another person feels free to be themselves. When you give someone your complete attention, you're giving them something precious, the permission to exist fully in that moment. Let me share a story that changed my perspective forever. I was teaching a workshop in Boston when a young woman approached me during the break. "Mr. Carnegie," she said, "I've just had the strangest experience. For 5 minutes, someone listened to me, really listened, and I felt like I existed for the first time in years. But let me ask you this. When was the last time someone gave you their complete, undivided attention? How did it make you feel? More importantly, how often do you give that gift to others? In a world where everyone is fighting for attention, giving it becomes a superpower. But here's the key. It's not about duration. It's about quality. 5 minutes of pure attention is worth more than an hour of distracted presence. Let me teach you what I call the 3 levels of attention. Level 1 is physical attention. This is about your body language. Are you facing the person completely? Is your posture open? Are your feet pointed toward them? These subtle signals say, "You have my full attention." Level 2 is mental attention. This is about clearing your mind. No rehearsing responses, no planning your day. Just pure present moment focus on the person in front of you. Level 3 is emotional attention. This is where magic happens. This is about tuning into not just what they're saying, but what they're feeling, what they're not saying, what they're hoping you'll understand. Here's something fascinating I've observed. When you give someone your complete attention, they don't just share more, they discover more. They understand themselves better in the light of your attention. I remember working with a CEO who was brilliant but couldn't connect with his team. His problem wasn't knowledge, it was attention. He was always 3 steps ahead in his mind, never fully present. We worked on one simple practice, the full attention reset. Here's how it works. Before every interaction, take 3 seconds. Just 3 seconds to reset your attention. Clear your mind. Drop your shoulders. Decide to be fully present. It sounds simple, but it's revolutionary. Now here's what most people get wrong about attention. They think it's passive. Just sit there and nod, right? Wrong. Real attention is active. It's dynamic. It's engaged. Let me give you 3 practical techniques for mastering active attention. First, practice what I call the attention mirror. When someone's speaking, notice their energy level and match it appropriately. If they're excited, let your energy rise. If they're contemplative, meet them there. Second, develop your attention memory. Don't just hear their words, remember them. When someone mentions their child's name or an upcoming challenge, write it down. Follow up later. Show them their words mattered. Third, master the power pause. After someone finishes speaking, wait 2 beats before responding. This small gap shows you're processing their words, not just waiting for your turn. But here's the challenge. In our hyper-connected world, giving undivided attention feels almost uncomfortable. Our phones buzz. Our minds wander. That's normal. The key isn't to fight these distractions. It's to make a conscious choice for presence. Remember this. Every time you give someone your complete attention, you're not just listening to them. You're investing in them. You're saying without words, in this moment, you matter. I've seen this simple truth transform thousands of lives. The quality of your attention determines the quality of your relationships. And in a world of endless distraction, quality attention isn't just nice, it's necessary. Here's your challenge. In your next 3 conversations, practice giving Olympic-level attention. No phone, no wandering thoughts, just pure, focused presence. Watch what happens, not just to them, but to you, because here's the truth. When you become someone who gives this level of attention, you become unforgettable. Not because you're trying to be, but because in a world of distraction, your presence becomes a gift. Are you ready to become that kind of presence in people's lives? To master the art of attention in a way that transforms every interaction? Because that's what we're going to learn together. There's a magic word in every language, a word that lights up the human brain like no other. Do you know what it is? It's your name. Your own name is the sweetest sound you'll ever hear. And understanding the simple truth is the key to unlocking deeper connections with everyone you meet. Let me share something powerful I discovered while teaching a workshop in Chicago. I asked everyone in the room to write down the last time someone said their name in a way that made them feel truly seen. The responses were startling. Most people couldn't remember. Think about that. In a world of constant communication, we've forgotten the power of this most personal word. But here's what most people don't understand about names. It's not just about remembering them. It's about how you say them, how you honor them, how you make them matter. I remember working with a bank executive who prided himself on his efficiency. Names don't matter, he told me. Results matter. 6 months later, after implementing what I'm about to teach you, his team's productivity had increased by 30%. Why? Because he learned that names aren't just labels. They're keys to humans' connection. Let me ask you this. How do you feel when someone mispronounces your name and doesn't bother to correct themselves? Or worse, when they don't use your name at all? There's a subtle dismissal there, isn't there? A tiny erosion of dignity. Here's the truth about names. They're not just how we identify people. They're how we acknowledge their humanity, their uniqueness, their right to exist as individuals in our world. Let me teach you the 4 levels of name mastery. Level 1 is perfect pronunciation. Take the time to get it right. Ask again if you need to. Write it down phonetically if you must. Show them their name matters enough to master. Level 2 is meaningful usage. Don't just pepper their name throughout the conversation. That feels manipulative. Use it at moments of genuine connection, appreciation, or emphasis. Level 3 is memory mastery. This isn't just about remembering names. It's about remembering the stories behind them. Were they named after someone? Does their name have special meaning? These details matter. Level 4 is name honor. This is about understanding that every name carries a history, a culture, an identity. When you honor someone's name, you honor their entire story. Here's a technique I've taught to thousands. The name anchor method. When you meet someone, create a vivid, even ridiculous image connecting their name to something distinctive about them. Sarah with the silver earrings becomes Silver Sarah in your mind. Michael, who loves music, becomes Melodic Michael. But here's the crucial distinction. These are memory tools for you, never labels you, share. The goal isn't to create nicknames, it's to ensure you never forget their real name. I remember teaching this to a sales team in Detroit. One member, James, was skeptical. I meet hundreds of people, he said. I can't remember all their names. A month later, he shared something remarkable. Not only was he remembering names, but his sales had increased. Why? Because people could feel the difference between being treated as a transaction and being treated as a named, known individual. Now, here's what most people get wrong about using names. They think it's about frequency. But using someone's name too often feels mechanical, insincere. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. It's about timing, impact, meaning. Let me give you 3 practical principles for using names effectively. First, practice what I call the name moment. When someone tells you their name, pause. Look them in the eye. Repeat it back to them, not as a question, but as an acknowledgement. David. Thank you, David. Feel the difference? Second, master the name bridge. When introducing people, use their names as a bridge to connection. Sarah, I'd like you to meet Michael. Michael, Sarah was just telling me about her work in marine biology, which reminds me of your passion for conservation. Third, develop your name memory. At the end of every day, write down the names of people you met. Review them. Remember one detail about each person. This isn't just about memory. It's about mindfulness. Here's something fascinating. Studies show that hearing our name activates unique patterns in our brain. It's as if our names are hardwired into our sense of self. When you say someone's name with intention, with respect, you're not just getting their attention, you're acknowledging their existence. Remember this. Every time you make the effort to remember and properly use someone's name, you're not just being polite. You're saying, you matter enough for me to get this right. Here's your challenge. In the next 24 hours, learn 3 new names. Really learn them. Learn how to pronounce them correctly. Learn something about the people who carry them. Then use those names with intention, with respect, with meaning. Because here's the truth. In a world where people increasingly feel like numbers, using someone's name properly isn't just good manners, it's an act of humanity. And that, my friends, is unforgettable. Are you ready to master this most personal aspect of charisma? To become someone who makes others feel known, valued, and remembered? Because that's the power of saying someone's name and meaning it. Have you ever noticed how some people have a way of making you reveal your deepest thoughts, your true passions, your hidden dreams, all while making you feel completely at ease? It's not magic, it's mastery. Mastery of the art of asking questions. Let me share something I've observed after decades of teaching human relations. Most people don't ask questions to understand. They ask questions to respond. There's a world of difference between these two approaches, and understanding this difference is the key to magnetic charisma. Here's what most people don't understand about questions. They're not just tools for gathering information. They're keys that unlock human connection. They're bridges between minds. They're invitations to trust. I remember working with a brilliant attorney in New York. She could argue any case, cite any precedent, but she couldn't connect with her clients. Why? Because she was asking questions to build cases, not relationships. When she learned what I'm about to teach you, everything changed. But let me ask you this. When was the last time someone asked you a question that made you stop and really think? A question that made you feel truly understood? A question that led you to discover something about yourself? The truth about powerful questions is this. They don't just seek information, they create revelation. They don't just start conversations, they start transformations. Let me teach you the 3 levels of questioning mastery. Level 1 is surface questions. These are the what, when, where questions. They're necessary, but they're just the beginning. What do you do becomes much more powerful when followed by Level 2. Level 2 is depth questions. These explore the why and how. They dive beneath the surface to understand motivation, passion, purpose. What made you choose this path? How does this work? Align with your values? Level 3 is insight questions. These are the questions that create breakthrough moments. They help people see themselves in new ways. What would you attempt if you knew you couldn't fail? How has this challenge shaped who you've become? Here's a technique I call the question ladder. Start with a surface question, but don't stay there. Use each answer as a stepping stone to a deeper question. Watch how people open up, not because you force them, but because you created a safe space for depth. I remember teaching this to a CEO who was frustrated with his team meetings. They never share what they really think, he told me. After learning to ask better questions, he discovered his team had insights and ideas he'd never imagined. All because he learned to ask questions that invited real thought, not just quick answers. Now, here's what most people get wrong about asking questions. They think it's about being clever. But the most powerful questions are often the simplest. They come from genuine curiosity, not a desire to impress. Let me give you 5 principles for asking questions that create connection. First, practice what I call the curiosity pause. Before asking your next question, pause. Really consider what you're curious about in their answer. Let your genuine interest guide your next question. Second, master the art of the follow-up. Don't jump from topic to topic. Stay with their answer. Explore it. Tell me more about that can be more powerful than any clever question. Third, learn to ask emotional questions. What was that like for you? How did that make you feel? These questions invite people to share not just facts, but experiences. Fourth, develop your question timing. Know when to dive deep and when to stay light. Read the energy of the conversation. Some moments call for depth, others for breath. Fifth, embrace the power of silence. After asking a significant question, wait. Give them space to think, to feel, to formulate their real answer, not just their first answer. Here's something fascinating. I've observed the quality of your questions determines the quality of your relationships. Ask surface questions, get surface relationships. Ask depth questions, create depth connections. But remember this crucial distinction. The goal isn't to interrogate, it's to understand. Every question should come from a place of genuine interest, not mere technique. I've seen this simple truth transform countless relationships. People don't remember what you tell them nearly as much as what you ask them. Why? Because good questions make people feel seen, heard, and understood. Here's a powerful practice I teach, the question journal. At the end of each day, write down the most interesting question you asked and the most interesting question you were asked. Notice patterns. Learn from them. Remember this, every question you ask is either opening a door or closing one. How's work? Closes doors. What's the most challenging part of your work right now? Opens them. Here's your challenge. In your next 3 conversations, practice asking questions that you're genuinely curious about. Questions that might surprise you with their answers. Questions that invite real thought, real feeling, real connection. Because, here's the truth, the most charismatic people aren't those who talk the most, they're those who ask the best questions. Not to show how smart they are, but to show how interested they are. Are you ready to master this art? To become someone who asks questions that matter, questions that connect, questions that transform? Because that's what separates surface charm from lasting charisma, the ability to ask questions that make people think, feel, and trust. There's a force more contagious than any virus, more powerful than any argument, more persuasive than any logic. What is it? Genuine enthusiasm. Not the manufactured kind you see in sales pitches, but real, authentic excitement that comes from deep within. Let me share something I've observed after years of studying human behavior. People don't follow logic, they follow feeling, and nothing generates feeling quite like authentic enthusiasm. Here's what most people don't understand about enthusiasm. It's not about being loud or animated. It's about being alive. Truly, genuinely alive to the moment, the possibility, the person in front of you. I remember working with a teacher who was struggling to connect with her students. I'm not naturally enthusiastic, she told me. I can't be one of those peppy, energetic teachers. But what she discovered, what I'm about to show you, changed everything. But let me ask you this. When was the last time someone's genuine excitement about something made you interested in it too? How did their enthusiasm affect you? More importantly, what made it feel real? The truth about authentic enthusiasm is this. It can't be faked, but it can be found in everything. The key is learning how to tap into what naturally excites you and sharing that excitement in a way that resonates with others. Let me teach you the 3 levels of authentic enthusiasm. Level 1 is personal enthusiasm. This is about connecting with what genuinely excites you, not what should excite you or what others think should excite you, but what truly lights you up inside. Level 2 is connective enthusiasm. This is about finding the bridge between your excitement and others' interests. It's about making your enthusiasm relevant, and relatable. Level 3 is contagious enthusiasm. This is where your genuine excitement naturally spreads to others, not through force, but through authenticity. Here's a technique I call the enthusiasm audit. Take 5 minutes right now. Write down 3 things that genuinely excite you, not what impresses others, not what looks good on paper, what actually makes you feel alive. I remember teaching this to a corporate executive who thought enthusiasm meant saying great. After every presentation, his team saw right through it. But when he learned to connect with his genuine passion for problem solving and share that authentically, his entire leadership presence transformed. Now, here's what most people get wrong about enthusiasm. They think it's about energy level. But real enthusiasm isn't about volume or speed. It's about depth of feeling and authenticity of expression. Let me give you 5 principles for cultivating authentic enthusiasm. First, practice what I call the enthusiasm route. Before expressing excitement about anything, connect with why it truly matters to you. What about it touches you personally? Second, master the art of measured passion. Enthusiasm doesn't always mean being loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's a quiet intensity, a focused interest, a gentle but genuine appreciation. Third, develop your enthusiasm language. Notice how you naturally express excitement. Are you more verbal or more physical? Do you use stories or statistics? Work with your natural style. Don't fight it. Fourth, learn the power of enthusiasm pacing. Match your level of expressed enthusiasm to the situation and the other person's style. Sometimes a subtle nod communicates more than an excited exclamation. Fifth, embrace what I call enthusiasm permission. Give yourself permission to be genuinely excited about what excites you, even if it seems small or unimportant to others. Here's something fascinating I've observed. When people are connected to their authentic enthusiasm, they don't need techniques or scripts. Their natural charisma flows effortlessly because they're being real. But remember this crucial distinction. Enthusiasm isn't about trying to get others excited. It's about sharing your genuine excitement in a way that invites others to connect with their own. I've seen this simple truth transform countless lives. People aren't moved by perfect presentations or polished performances. They're moved by authentic passion, genuinely expressed. Here's a powerful practice I call the Enthusiasm Journal. Each day, write down one thing that genuinely excited you. Not what should have excited you, what actually did. Watch how this awareness begins to infuse your interactions with natural energy. Remember this. Every time you express genuine enthusiasm, you're not just sharing excitement, you're sharing yourself. You're inviting others into your world, your perspective, your joy. Here's your challenge. For the next 24 hours, notice what naturally excites you. Big things, small things, doesn't matter. Then find one opportunity to share that excitement authentically with someone else. Because here's the truth. The most charismatic people aren't those who can fake enthusiasm for anything. They're those who have learned to find and share genuine enthusiasm in everything. Are you ready to discover your authentic enthusiasm? To let your natural excitement become a bridge to deeper connections? To let your genuine passion become your most magnetic quality? Because that's what we're learning here. Not how to appear enthusiastic, but how to be authentically excited about life and share that excitement in a way that naturally draws others in. That's the kind of enthusiasm that changes rooms, moves mountains, and transforms lives. Have you ever noticed how some people's smiles can literally light up a room? It's not about perfect teeth or practiced expressions. It's about something far more powerful: authenticity. A genuine smile is the shortest distance between two people, and mastering this simple yet profound tool can transform your presence forever. Let me share something I've discovered after years of studying human behavior. A real smile isn't just an expression, it's a connection. It's a bridge between hearts that can be built in an instant, but its effects can last a lifetime. Here's what most people don't understand about smiling. It's not about looking happy. It's about feeling genuine warmth and letting that warmth show through naturally. The difference between a real smile and a fake one isn't in the mouth, it's in the eyes, and more importantly, in the heart. I remember working with a young executive who thought leadership meant being serious all the time. "I can't smile," he told me. "It will make me look weak." 6 months later, after implementing what I'm about to teach you, his team's engagement scores had doubled. Why? Because he learned that authentic warmth isn't weakness, it's strength. But let me ask you this. When was the last time someone's genuine smile made you feel instantly at ease? What was it about that smile that felt so real, so welcoming? More importantly, how did it make you feel about them? The truth about genuine smiling is this. It's not just about making yourself appear more approachable. It's about creating a moment of genuine human connection, a moment where barriers fall and trust begins. Let me teach you the 3 levels of smile mastery. Level 1 is the physical smile. This involves understanding the mechanics of a genuine smile, how it involves not just your mouth, but your eyes, your posture, your entire presence. Level 2 is the emotional smile. This is about connecting your smile to genuine feeling, not forcing happiness, but allowing natural warmth to show through. Level 3 is the connective smile. This is where your smile becomes a bridge, a way of saying without words, "I see you, I acknowledge you, you're welcome here." Here's a technique I call the smile audit. Take a moment right now. Think about what naturally makes you smile, not what you think should make you smile, but what actually brings genuine warmth to your heart. I remember teaching this to a sales professional who had mastered the professional smile, the one that looks perfect but feels empty. When she learned to connect with genuine warmth instead of trying to project an image, her sales didn't just increase, they doubled. Now here's what most people get wrong about smiling. They think it's about showing teeth or lifting cheeks. But a genuine smile starts long before it reaches your face. It starts with a genuine feeling of warmth, appreciation, or connection. Let me give you 5 principles for mastering the authentic smile. First, practice what I call the heart smile. Before any interaction, connect with a feeling of genuine warmth. Let your smile emerge from that feeling, not from conscious effort. Second, master the art of eye smiling. A genuine smile involves your entire face, especially your eyes. The corners crinkle, the eyes soften. You can't fake this. It has to come from real feeling. Third, develop your smile timing. Know when to brighten your smile and when to soften it. Some moments call for radiance, others for gentle warmth. Fourth, learn the power of the responsive smile. Let your smile be a natural response to others, not a fixed expression. When someone shares something meaningful, let your smile show genuine appreciation. Fifth, embrace what I call smile authenticity. Never force a smile when you're not feeling it. Instead, connect with genuine gratitude or appreciation and let that authentic feeling show through. Here's something fascinating I've observed. When people smile authentically, they don't just change their expression, they change the entire atmosphere of a room. It's like watching a wave of warmth spread from person to person. But remember this crucial distinction. A smile isn't just about making others feel good, it's about creating a genuine moment of human connection. When you smile authentically, you're not just changing your expression, you're opening a door to deeper relationship. I've seen this simple truth transform countless interactions. People don't remember what you were wearing or what you said, nearly as much as they remember how your presence made them feel. And nothing creates positive feeling quite like a genuine smile. Here's a powerful practice I call the Smile Journal. Each day, notice what naturally brings a smile to your face. Not what you think should make you smile, what actually does. Watch how this awareness begins to infuse your interactions with natural warmth. Remember this, every authentic smile is an invitation to connect, to trust, to share. When you smile genuinely, you're not just expressing happiness, you're creating safety for others to be themselves. Here's your challenge. For the next 24 hours, notice your natural smiles. When do they appear? What triggers them? How do others respond to them? Then find one opportunity to share a completely genuine smile with someone who might need it. Because here's the truth. The most charismatic people aren't those with the biggest smiles or the most perfect teeth. They're those whose smiles reflect genuine warmth, authentic connection, and real presence. Are you ready to master this art? To let your smile become not just an expression, but a bridge? To let your natural warmth become one of your most magnetic qualities? Because that's what we're learning here. Not how to smile more, but how to let your authentic warmth shine through in a way that naturally draws others in. That's the kind of smile that changes rooms, opens hearts, and transforms relationships. There's a misconception in our world that charismatic speaking is about being loud, being clever, or being perfect. Nothing could be further from the truth. The most magnetic speakers I've ever met share one quality. They speak with warmth and crystal clarity. Let me share something I've learned after decades of teaching public speaking. People don't need to be impressed. They need to be reached. They don't need to be dazzled. They need to be understood. And understanding flows not from complexity, but from clarity. Here's what most people don't understand about speaking. The goal isn't to sound important. The goal is to make important things sound simple, to make complex ideas accessible, to make every word count. I remember working with a brilliant professor who could explain quantum physics, but couldn't connect with his students. "I speak with precision," he told me. Isn't that enough? What he learned, what I'm about to show. You transformed his teaching forever. But let me ask you this. When was the last time someone's way of speaking made you lean in, made you want to hear more? What was it about their voice, their words, their presence that drew you in? The truth about magnetic speaking is this. It's not about performance. It's about connection. It's not about perfect words. It's about perfect clarity. And clarity comes from knowing exactly what you want to convey and caring deeply about conveying it. Let me teach you the 3 levels of speaking mastery. Level 1 is technical clarity. This is about your actual words, your pace, your volume, your articulation. The mechanics of clear speech. Level 2 is emotional clarity. This is about the feeling behind your words, the warmth, the conviction, the authentic care that makes your message matter. Level 3 is connective clarity. This is where your speaking becomes a bridge, where your words don't just convey information, they create understanding. Here's a technique I call the clarity check. Before any important conversation, ask yourself, could a 12-year-old understand what I'm about to say? If not, simplify. Not because your audience is childlike, but because simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. I remember teaching this to a CEO who prided himself on his vocabulary. His team meetings were like listening to a thesaurus. When he learned to speak with genuine clarity and warmth, something amazing happened. His ideas didn't just get heard, they got implemented. Now, here's what most people get wrong about speaking. They think it's about what you say. But magnetic speaking is equally about how you say it. The warmth in your voice, the care in your pacing, the humanity in your tone, these aren't extra. Features, they're essential elements. Let me give you 5 principles for speaking with warmth and clarity. First, practice what I call the warmth foundation. Before speaking, connect with genuine care for your listener. Let that care infuse your voice naturally. Second, master the art of pace. Some ideas need space, some need speed. Learn to vary your pace not for effect, but for understanding. Third, develop your clarity muscle. After every important point, ask yourself, could this be simpler, clearer, more direct? Then make it so. Fourth, learn the power of the pause. A well-placed pause isn't dead air. It's thinking space. It gives your words weight and your listeners time to absorb. Fifth, embrace what I call connection over perfection. Better to stumble occasionally and stay real than to be polished but distant. Here's something fascinating I've observed. When people focus on connecting rather than impressing, their natural speaking power emerges. Their voice finds its authentic rhythm. Their words carry natural weight. But remember this crucial distinction. Speaking with warmth doesn't mean being soft. Speaking with clarity doesn't mean being simple. It means being accessible while maintaining depth. I've seen this simple truth transform countless speakers. People don't remember most of what you say, but they never forget how you made them feel while saying it. Here's a powerful practice I call the Clarity Journal. Each day, try to explain something complex in the simplest possible terms. Write it down. Read it aloud. Feel how clarity feels in your mouth, in your voice. Remember this, every time you speak, you're not just conveying information, you're creating an experience. Make it an experience of clarity, of warmth, of genuine connection. Here's your challenge. In your next 3 conversations, focus entirely on being understood, not on being impressive. Speak with warmth, with clarity, with care. Watch what happens, because here's the truth. The most charismatic speakers aren't those with the biggest vocabularies or the most polished delivery. They're those who make every word count, who make every listener feel both intelligent and valued. Are you ready to master this art? To let your voice become not just a tool for words, but a bridge for connection? To let your natural warmth and clarity become your most powerful speaking assets? Because that's what we're learning here, not how to speak perfectly, but how to speak in a way that creates genuine understanding and real connection. That's the kind of speaking that changes minds, opens hearts, and transforms relationships. Here's a paradox that took me years to understand. The most magnetic people in any room are often those who speak the least. Why? Because they've mastered something far more powerful than speaking. They've mastered the art of listening to understand. Let me share something I've observed after decades of teaching human relations. Most people don't listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. And that single distinction makes all the difference in the world. Here's what most people don't understand about listening. It's not a passive act of receiving information. It's an active art of creating understanding. When you truly listen, you're not just hearing words, you're building bridges of comprehension. I remember working with a negotiator who prided himself on always having the perfect response. I can counter any argument, he told me. But when he learned what I'm about to teach you about real listening, his success rate didn't just improve, it doubled. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you felt truly, deeply understood? By someone? Not just heard, but understood? What did that person do differently? How did their listening make you feel? The truth about powerful listening is this. It's not about being quiet while the other person talks. It's about being fully present to what they're saying and what they're not saying. Let me teach you the 3 levels of listening mastery. Level 1 is physical listening. This is about your body language, your eye contact, your physical presence. It's the foundation of all deeper listening. Level 2 is mental listening. This is where you're not just hearing words, but actively processing meaning. You're following their logic, their emotion, their journey. Level 3 is intuitive listening. This is where you pick up on the unspoken, the fears behind the confidence, the hopes behind the complaints, the questions behind the statements. Here's a technique I call the understanding pause. When someone finishes speaking, take a moment, not to prepare your response, but to truly absorb what they've said. Let their words land fully before you even think about replying. I remember teaching this to a manager who was brilliant at solving problems, but struggled to connect with his team. When he learned to listen for understanding, rather than for fixing, something remarkable happened. His team didn't just start sharing more, they started solving their own problems. Now, here's what most people get wrong about listening. They think it's about being quiet while waiting for their turn to talk. But real listening is about being fully present to another person's experience. Let me give you 5 principles for mastering the art of listening for understanding. First, practice what I call empty cup listening. Before any conversation, empty your mind of preconceptions, solutions, and responses. Listen as if you know nothing, because in truth, about their unique experience, you don't. Second, master the art of the echo. Not just repeating their words, but reflecting their meaning back to them. What I hear you saying is, this isn't about showing you're listening, it's about ensuring you're understanding. Third, develop your listening depth. Learn to hear not just the words, but the emotions behind them. Not just the statements, but the values they reveal. Fourth, embrace the power of silence. Don't rush to fill pauses. Often, in the silence after someone speaks, their deepest truths emerge. Fifth, cultivate what I call understanding before resolution. Fight the urge to solve or respond until you're certain you fully understand. Often, understanding itself is the solution. Here's something fascinating I've observed. When people feel deeply understood, they become more understanding. It's as if deep listening creates a space where wisdom can emerge naturally. But remember, this crucial distinction. Understanding doesn't always mean agreeing. You can deeply understand someone's perspective while holding a different view. That's not just good listening, that's emotional intelligence. I've seen this simple truth transform countless relationships. People don't need you to have all the answers. They need you to create a space where they can find their own answers. Here's a powerful practice I call the listening journal. Each day, write down one thing you heard that surprised you. Not because the information was new, but because your listening was deeper. Remember this, every time you listen with real presence, you're not just gathering information, you're creating trust. Every moment of genuine understanding is a brick in the bridge of connection. Here's your challenge. In your next 3 conversations, focus entirely on understanding before even thinking about responding. Listen as if their words were the most fascinating thing you've ever heard. Because here's the truth. The most charismatic people aren't those who speak the most compellingly. They're those who listen the most completely, not to respond, not to fix, but to understand. Are you ready to master this art? To let your listening become not just a courtesy, but a superpower? To let your understanding become your most magnetic quality? Because that's what we're learning here. Not how to appear interested, but how to be so genuinely interested in understanding others that connection becomes natural and influence becomes inevitable. That's the kind of listening that changes lives, heals relationships, and transforms worlds. There's a dance that happens in every human interaction, a subtle, often unconscious synchronization that builds connection without a word being spoken. Understanding this dance, this natural mirroring, is one of the most powerful keys to magnetic charisma. Let me share something I've discovered after years of studying human behavior. People don't connect with those who are different from them. They connect with those who feel familiar. But here's the crucial distinction. This familiarity must be authentic, not manufactured. Here's what most people don't understand about mirroring. It's not about copying someone's movements or matching their words. It's about finding genuine points of resonance and allowing natural harmony to develop. I remember working with a sales professional who tried to mirror her clients mechanically. If they cross their legs, I cross mine, she told me. If they use certain words, I use them too. But when she learned what I'm about to teach you about authentic mirroring, her entire approach transformed. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you felt instantly comfortable with someone you just met? What created that ease, that sense of natural connection? The truth about effective mirroring is this. It's not a technique to be mastered, it's a natural human tendency to be understood and refined. When done authentically, it creates bridges of understanding without either person feeling manipulated. Let me teach you the 3 levels of natural mirroring. Level 1 is physical resonance. This is about matching energy levels and general posture, not mimicking specific movements. It's about creating physical harmony, not copying. Level 2 is emotional attunement. This is where you connect with the emotional tone of the interaction, matching depth with depth, lightness with lightness. Level 3 is deep rapport. This is where connection becomes so natural that synchronization happens effortlessly, without conscious thought. Here's a technique I call the resonance check. Before any interaction, tune into your own natural state. Then, as you engage with others, notice where your natural rhythms align. Don't force it, observe it. I remember teaching this to an executive who struggled with team meetings. "I feel like I'm always out of sync," he said, when he learned to find natural points of connection rather than trying to create artificial ones. His leadership presence transformed. Now, here's what most people get wrong about mirroring. They think it's about matching external behaviors. But real mirroring starts with internal alignment, finding genuine points of connection, and letting them express naturally. Let me give you 5 principles for mastering natural mirroring. First, practice what I call authentic alignment. Instead of trying to match someone's specific behaviors, align with their general energy level and emotional tone. Second, master the art of pace matching, not by speaking exactly as fast or slow as they do, but by finding a comfortable rhythm that complements theirs. Third, develop your natural adaptability. Learn to flow between different communication styles without losing your authentic voice. Fourth, embrace the power of subtle synchronization. Small adjustments in posture, tone, and energy often create stronger connections than obvious matching. Fifth, cultivate what I call resonant presence. This is about being so genuinely present that natural synchronization happens without effort. Here's something fascinating I've observed. When people stop trying to create rapport and start allowing it to develop naturally, their charisma increases exponentially. But remember this crucial distinction. Mirroring isn't about becoming like someone else. It's about finding common ground while maintaining your authenticity. I've seen the simple truth transform countless interactions. People don't connect with perfect mirrors. They connect with authentic resonance. Here's a powerful practice I call the connection journal. Each day, notice one moment of natural synchronization in your interactions. Not forced mirroring, but genuine alignment. Remember this, every time you find a natural point of connection with someone, you're not just matching their behavior, you're creating a bridge of understanding. Here's your challenge. In your next 3 interactions, focus on finding natural points of resonance. Don't try to create connection. Allow it to emerge, because here's the truth. The most charismatic people aren't those who can perfectly mirror others. They're those who can find authentic points of connection while remaining genuinely themselves. Are you ready to master this art? To let your natural ability to connect become more refined and conscious? To let your authentic presence become a bridge to deeper rapport? Because that's what we're learning here. Not how to copy others, but how to find genuine points of resonance that create natural, effortless connection. That's the kind of mirroring that builds trust, deepens relationships, and creates lasting influence. There's a secret that the most magnetic people in history have always known. True charisma isn't about being the hero of every story, it's about making others the hero of theirs. This single shift in perspective can transform your presence from impressive to unforgettable. Let me share something I've learned after years of studying human nature. Everyone you meet is the main character in their own life story. And when you recognize and honor that truth, something magical happens to your charisma. Here's what most people don't understand about making others the hero. It's not about diminishing yourself or playing small. It's about having the confidence and wisdom to shine the spotlight on others. I remember working with a successful entrepreneur who couldn't understand why his team seemed disengaged. "I tell them about all my achievements," he said. "Shouldn't that inspire them?" When he learned what I am about to teach you, his entire company culture transformed. But let me ask you this. When was the last time someone made you feel like the hero of your own story? How did they do it? More importantly, how did it make you feel about them? The truth about making others the hero is this. It's not about flattery or false praise. It's about genuinely recognizing and celebrating the potential in others, often before they see it themselves. Let me teach you the 3 levels of hero making. Level 1 is recognition. This is about seeing and acknowledging the unique qualities, efforts, and achievements of others. Level 2 is elevation. This is where you help people see their own potential, their own possibility, their own power. Level 3 is empowerment. This is where you create spaces and opportunities for others to shine, to grow, to become their best selves. Here's a technique I call the hero lens. Before any interaction, ask yourself, what's remarkable about this person that they might not fully see yet? Then look for opportunities to illuminate that quality. I remember teaching this to a manager who was brilliant but couldn't build team loyalty. When he learned to focus on spotlighting his team's achievements instead of his own, something remarkable happened. Not only did loyalty soar, so did performance. Now, here's what most people get wrong about making others the hero. They think it's about giving compliments or praise. But real hero making is about seeing potential and creating opportunities for that potential to flourish. Let me give you 5 principles for mastering the art of making others the hero. First, practice what I call story mining. Listen for the moments of courage, resilience, or wisdom in others' experiences. Then, help them see those moments for what they are, hero moments. Second, master the art of spotlight shifting. When praise comes your way, learn to redirect it to highlight the contributions of others. Third, develop your recognition radar. Become expert at noticing not just achievements but effort, progress, and potential in others. Fourth, embrace the power of the setup. Create situations where others can shine. Ask questions that allow them to share their expertise. Create stages for their talents. Fifth, cultivate what I call hero vision. Learn to see people not just as they are, but as they could be, and help them bridge that gap. Here's something fascinating I've observed. When you make others the hero, you don't diminish your own light. You multiply it. People don't just remember what you helped them achieve. They remember how you made them feel about themselves. But remember this crucial distinction. Making others the hero isn't about false modesty or self-deprecation. It's about having the confidence to celebrate others without feeling threatened. I've seen this simple truth transform countless relationships. People don't follow those who showcase their own greatness. They follow those who help them discover their own. Here's a powerful practice I call the Hero Journal. Each day, write down one opportunity you found to highlight someone else's potential or achievement. Watch how this awareness changes your interactions. Remember this, every time you make someone else the hero of their story, you're not just being nice. You're being transformative. You're showing them a version of themselves they might not have seen before. Here's your challenge. In your next 3 interactions, focus entirely on finding what's heroic in the other person. Not to flatter, but to genuinely recognize and elevate their unique qualities. Because here's the truth. The most charismatic people aren't those who tell the best stories about themselves. They're those who help others see the greatness in their own stories. Are you ready to master this art, to let your ability to recognize and celebrate others become your signature strength, to let your confidence in others become a catalyst for their growth? Because that's what we're learning here. Not how to be the star of every show, but how to be the person who helps others discover their own starring role. That's the kind of charisma that builds legacies, transforms lives, and creates lasting impact. There's a delicate balance that the most charismatic people have mastered. the ability to own their space without overwhelming others. It's the art of being fully present, completely confident yet utterly inviting, all at the same time. Let me share something I've observed after years of studying personal presence. True power isn't about domination, it's about creation. Creating space, creating safety, creating opportunity for connection. Here's what most people don't understand about owning their space. It's not about making yourself bigger or others smaller. It's about finding your natural gravity and letting others orbit comfortably within it. I remember working with a corporate leader who thought presence meant being the loudest voice in every room. "I need to dominate," he said, "or I'll be overlooked." When he learned what I'm about to teach you, his influence didn't just increase, it multiplied. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you felt completely at ease in your own presence? Not performing, not pushing, just being. How did that feeling affect those around you? The truth about owning your space is this. It's not about the space you take up, it's about the space you create. The space where others feel safe to be themselves, to speak their minds, to show up fully. Let me teach you the 3 levels of space mastery. Level 1 is physical presence. This is about how you carry yourself, how you move, how you occupy physical space with confidence and ease. Level 2 is emotional presence. This is where you create an atmosphere of safety and invitation, where your confidence becomes a foundation. For others' comfort. Level 3 is magnetic presence. This is where your very being becomes a center of gravity, naturally drawing others in without effort or force. Here is a technique I call the space check. Before entering any room or situation, take a moment to feel your natural presence. Not what you think it should be, what it naturally is. I remember teaching this to an executive who struggled with board meetings. "I either shrink or shout," she told me. When she learned to find her natural presence, something remarkable happened. She didn't just command attention, she created connection. Now, here's what most people get wrong about owning their space. They think it's about projection, being bigger, louder, more assertive. But real space ownership is about foundation, being so grounded in yourself that others feel grounded in your presence. Let me give you 5 principles for mastering the art of owning your space. First, practice what I call grounded confidence. This isn't about pumping yourself up. It's about settling into your natural authority. Second, master the art of presence pacing. Learn to expand and contract your energy as the situation requires, always maintaining your center. Third, develop your space awareness. Become conscious of how your presence affects the energy of a room and learn to modulate it for maximum positive impact. Fourth, embrace the power of stillness. Sometimes the strongest presence comes not from movement or speech, but from complete confident stillness. Fifth, cultivate what I call invitational authority. Let your confidence become not a wall that separates, but a foundation that supports others. Here's something fascinating I've observed. When people stop trying to prove their presence and start embodying it naturally, their charisma increases exponentially. But remember this crucial distinction. Owning your space isn't about controlling it. It's about creating it. Creating an environment where both you and others can thrive. I've seen this simple truth transform countless leaders. People don't follow those who demand space. They follow those who create it. Here's a powerful practice I call the presence journal. Each day, notice one moment when you felt completely natural in your own presence. Not forced, not performed, just authentic. Remember this, every time you own your space with grace, you're not just establishing your presence, you're creating a field of possibility for others. Here's your challenge. In your next 3 situations, focus on finding your natural presence. Not what you think it should be, but what it naturally is when you're at your best. Because here's the truth. The most charismatic people aren't those who fill every space they enter. They're those who enhance every space they enter. Are you ready to master this art? To let your natural presence become both powerful and inviting, to let your confidence become a foundation for others' growth? Because that's what we're learning. Here, not how to dominate spaces, but how to own them in a way that makes everyone feel more powerful, more present, more possible. That's the kind of presence that transforms rooms, builds trust, and creates lasting impact. There is a power in human communication that transcends logic, transcends data, transcends even the most carefully constructed arguments. It's the power of story. And mastering this power is essential to magnetic charisma. Let me share something I've discovered after years of studying human influence. Facts may convince the mind, but stories move the heart, and it's the heart that drives action, creates connection, and leaves lasting impressions. Here's what most people don't understand about storytelling. It's not about being clever or creative. It's about being real, being relevant, and being resonant with human experience. I remember working with a technical expert who struggled to connect with his audience. "I give them all the data," he said. "Why aren't they engaged?" When he learned what I'm about to teach you about storytelling, his entire impact transformed. But let me ask you this. When was the last time a story changed how you felt about something? What made that story so powerful? More importantly, how did it change you? The truth about emotional storytelling is this. It's not about manipulation, it's about illumination, about helping people see and feel truth in a way that raw information never could. Let me teach you the 3 levels of story mastery. Level 1 is structure. This is about learning the basic framework of effective stories, the beginning that hooks, the middle that builds, the end that transforms. Level 2 is emotional arc. This is where you learn to take people on a feeling journey, not just an information journey. Level 3 is transformative impact. This is where your stories don't just entertain or inform, they change how people see themselves and their world. Here's a technique I call the story core. Before sharing any story, ask yourself, what's the emotional truth at the heart of this experience? What universal human theme does it touch? I remember teaching this to a sales leader who relied purely on features and benefits. When she learned to wrap those facts in relevant stories, her sales didn't just increase, they doubled. Now, here's what most people get wrong about storytelling. They think it's about being entertaining or dramatic. But real storytelling is about being authentic and relevant to your audience's experience. Let me give you 5 principles for mastering emotional storytelling. First, practice what I call truth mining. Every experience contains multiple truths. Learn to find the one that will resonate most deeply with your specific audience. Second, master the art of emotional pacing. Know when to slow down for impact, when to speed up for energy, when to pause for reflection. Third, develop your detail sensitivity. Learn which specific details will make your story come alive and which ones will just create clutter. Fourth, embrace the power of vulnerability. The stories that move people most are often the ones where you show your own humanity, your own struggles, your own growth. Fifth, cultivate what I call story relevance. Always connect your story back to your audience's experience, their challenges, their aspirations. Here's something fascinating I've observed. When people stop trying to be perfect storytellers and start being authentic story sharers, their impact increases exponentially. But remember this crucial distinction. Emotional storytelling isn't about manipulating feelings. It's about sharing experiences that allow others to access their own emotions. I've seen this simple truth transform countless communicators. People don't remember data, they remember stories that made them feel something. Here's a powerful practice I call the story journal. Each day, write down one moment that moved you. Not the big dramatic events, the small human moments that touched your heart. Remember this. Every time you share a story with genuine emotion, you're not just conveying information. You're creating an experience that can change how people think, feel, and act. Here's your challenge. In your next 3 interactions, Find one opportunity to replace pure information with a relevant story. Watch how it changes the energy of the conversation. Because here's the truth. The most charismatic people aren't those who tell the most polished stories. They're those who share the most authentic stories in service of genuine connection. You ready to master this art? To let your experiences become bridges of understanding? To let your stories become catalysts for change? Because that's what we're learning here. Not how to perform stories, but how to share experiences that move people to new insights, new feelings, new possibilities. That's the kind of storytelling that changes hearts, opens minds, and transforms lives. In a world that's quick to criticize and slow to praise, there's a form of charisma that stands out, like a lighthouse in the dark. The ability to speak the language of encouragement. Not empty praise, not shallow compliments, but genuine, specific. Encouragement that builds people up from the inside out. Let me share something I've learned after decades of studying human motivation. The most powerful force for positive change isn't criticism. It's belief. Genuine, specific, informed belief in someone's potential. Here's what most people don't understand about encouragement. It's not about making people feel good. It's about helping them become better. It's about seeing potential and speaking to it until it becomes reality. I remember working with a teacher who struggled with difficult students. They need tough love, she said. They need to know where they're failing. When she learned what I'm about to teach you about encouragement, her classroom didn't just become more positive, it became more powerful. But let me ask you this. When was the last time someone's encouragement changed how you saw yourself? What made their words so impactful? More importantly, how did it change your performance? The truth about encouragement is this. It's not about being nice. It's about being transformative. It's about seeing people's highest potential and speaking to it so clearly that they begin to see it too. Let me teach you the 3 levels of encouragement mastery. Level 1 is specific recognition. This is about seeing and naming exactly what someone is doing right, not just saying, good job. Level 2 is growth spotting. This is where you learn to identify and celebrate progress, not just achievement, the small steps that lead to big changes. Level 3 is potential activation. This is where your words don't just acknowledge what is, they awaken what could be. Here's a technique I call the encouragement lens. Before offering any feedback, ask yourself, what's growing in this person that they might not fully see yet? What seed of excellence is trying to sprout? I remember teaching this to a manager who thought encouragement would make his team soft. When he learned to offer specific, growth-focused encouragement, his team's performance didn't just improve, it soared. Now here's what most people get wrong about encouragement. They think it's about saying positive things. But real encouragement is about seeing positive potential and speaking to it with specificity and conviction. Let me give you 5 principles for mastering the language of encouragement. First, practice what I call growth spotting. Learn to see and name the specific moments of progress, no matter how small. I noticed how you handled that difficult conversation. Your patience is growing. Second, master the art of future-focused praise. Don't just acknowledge what is, point to what's becoming. The way you're developing your analytical skills shows real leadership potential. Third, develop your encouragement specificity. Replace good job with detailed observations. The way you considered multiple perspectives in your analysis shows real depth of thinking. Fourth, embrace the power of yet. Learn to add this transformative word to any current limitation. You're not comfortable with public speaking yet. Fifth, cultivate what I call strength amplification. Learn to spot people's natural talents and encourage their development. Your ability to simplify complex ideas is a rare gift. Keep developing it. Here's something fascinating I've observed. When people receive specific, growth-focused encouragement, they don't just feel better, they perform better. They take more risks, show more creativity, persist longer in the face of challenges. But remember this crucial distinction. Encouragement isn't about ignoring problems, it's about illuminating possibilities. You can be both realistic about the present and optimistic about the future. I've seen this simple truth transform countless lives. People rarely rise to their expectations. They rise to the expectations of those who believe in them. Here's a powerful practice I call the encouragement journal. Each day, write down one specific growth-focused piece of encouragement you offered. Watch how this awareness changes your interactions. Remember this: every time you offer genuine encouragement, you're not just making someone feel good, you're helping them become better. You're speaking to their potential until they can see it themselves. Here's your challenge. In your next 3 interactions, look for one specific thing to encourage in each person. Not general praise, specific recognition of growth, effort, or potential. Because here's the truth. The most charismatic people aren't those who can point out what's wrong. They're those who can see and nurture what's right. Are you ready to master this art, to let your words become catalysts for growth, to let your encouragement become a force for transformation? Because that's what we're learning here, not how to give compliments, but how to speak the language of growth, potential, and possibility. That's the kind of encouragement that builds confidence, develops talent, and changes lives. Before you say a single word, before you make a single gesture, you've already spoken volumes through your energy. The way you enter a room, the presence you bring, the atmosphere you create. These silent messages often speak louder than any words that follow. Let me share something I've discovered after years of studying human interaction. People don't just respond to what you do or say. They respond to the energy you bring. And that energy is something you can consciously cultivate and control. Here's what most people don't understand about energy. It's not about being high or low, positive or negative. It's about being appropriate and authentic, bringing the right energy for the right moment. I remember working with an executive who always entered rooms like a tornado. "I want to make an impact," she said. When she learned what I'm about to teach you about energy management, her impact didn't just increase, it became transformative. But let me ask you this. When was the last time someone's energy completely changed the atmosphere of a room? What was it about their presence that had such an effect? More importantly, how did it influence everyone else? The truth about energy is this. It's not about performance, it's about presence. It's not about showing energy, it's about sharing it in a way that elevates everyone around you. Let me teach you the 3 levels of energy mastery. Level 1 is energy awareness. This is about understanding your natural energy patterns and how they affect others. Level 2 is energy management. This is where you learn to modulate your energy consciously for different situations and purposes. Level 3 is energy leadership. This is where your energy becomes a tool for lifting, aligning, and transforming the energy of entire rooms. Here's a technique I call the energy check. Before entering any space, take a moment to assess 3 things: the energy you're carrying, the energy the situation needs, and how to bridge any gap between them. I remember teaching this to a sales professional who couldn't understand why his enthusiasm wasn't connecting. When he learned to match his energy to his audience's readiness, his results transformed completely. Now, here's what most people get wrong about energy. They think it's about being on all the time. But real energy mastery is about finding the right frequency for each situation. Let me give you 5 principles for mastering your energy. First, practice what I call energy centering. Before any important interaction, take a moment to find your center. Not hyped up, not toned down, just centered and present. Second, master the art of energy reading. Learn to quickly assess the energy of any room you enter. Is it tense, relaxed, expectant, resistant? Your energy should respond accordingly. Third, develop your energy flexibility. Learn to shift your energy smoothly without losing your authenticity. Like a skilled musician changing tempo while maintaining the core melody. Fourth, embrace the power of energy preparation. Take time before important encounters to consciously set your energy. Your first 30 seconds in any space often set the tone for everything that follows. Fifth, cultivate what I call energy generosity. Learn to use your energy not to overpower or impress, but to lift and enhance the energy of others. Here's something fascinating I've observed. When people master their energy, they don't just change atmospheres, they change outcomes. Meetings become more productive, conversations more meaningful, relationships more authentic. But remember this crucial distinction. Managing your energy isn't about suppressing your natural vitality. It's about channeling it effectively. I've seen this simple truth transform countless leaders. People don't just follow what you say or do. They follow the energy you bring to every situation. Here's a powerful practice I call the energy journal. Each day, notice one situation where your energy either enhanced or hindered an interaction. Learn from both. Remember this: every time you enter a space, your energy is making promises about what it's like to interact with you. Make sure those promises are ones you can keep. Here's your challenge. In your next 3 situations, consciously set your energy before entering, not by performing, but by centering yourself in the energy that will serve that situation best. Because here's the truth. The most charismatic people aren't those with the most energy. They're those with the most appropriate energy for each moment. Are you ready to master this art? To let your energy become a conscious tool for connection? To let your presence become a force for positive transformation? Because that's what we're learning here. Not how to perform energy, but how to embody the kind of presence that naturally elevates every room you enter. That's the kind of energy that transforms atmospheres, enhances relationships, and creates lasting impact. In a world obsessed with instant impact and quick wins, there's a form of charisma that builds slowly but lasts forever. The charisma of consistency. It's not about flash or dazzle. It's about being someone people can count on completely and without question. Let me share something I've learned after decades of studying human relations. People may be attracted to excitement, but they trust consistency. And in the end, trust is the foundation of all lasting influence. Here's what most people don't understand about consistency. It's not about being predictable or rigid. It's about being reliably authentic, dependably present, unfailingly true to your word. I remember working with a brilliant but erratic leader. "I want people to see me as dynamic," he said. When he learned what I'm about to teach you about the power of consistency, his influence didn't just grow, it deepened. But let me ask you this: when was the last time you really counted on someone? What made you trust them so completely? More importantly, what made them so trustworthy? The truth about consistency is this: it's not about being perfect, it's about being present. Not just in the big moments, but in all the small moments that build trust over time. Let me teach you the 3 levels of consistency mastery. Level 1 is behavioral consistency. This is about aligning your actions with your words, your promises with your performance, your intentions with your impact. Level 2 is emotional consistency. This is where you become someone others can count on, not just for what you do, but for how you show up emotionally. Level 3 is value consistency. This is where your actions consistently reflect your core values, creating a depth of trust that no amount of charm can match. Here's a technique I call the consistency check. Before making any promise, ask yourself, can I deliver this not just once but every time? Not just today, but every day? I remember teaching this to a sales manager who prided himself on making big promises. When he learned to make fewer promises but keep them unfailingly, his team's trust and their results soared. Now, here's what most people get wrong about consistency. They think it's boring. But real consistency isn't about being bland, it's about being reliable in a way that creates freedom for others. Let me give you 5 principles for mastering the art of consistency. First, practice what I call promise management. Make fewer promises, but keep them absolutely. Let your word become your bond. Second, Master the art of routine excellence. Learn to find excitement not in variety, but in doing important things consistently well. Third, develop your consistency. Courage. It takes bravery to be consistent when others are chasing the next big thing. Be brave enough to be steady. Fourth, embrace the power of small moments. Understand that trust is built not in grand gestures, but in tiny moments of reliability. Repeat it over time. Fifth, cultivate what I call consistency creativity. Learn to be innovative within the framework of reliability. Consistent doesn't mean stagnant. Here's something fascinating I've observed. When people become truly consistent, they don't just earn trust. They create a kind of gravitational field that naturally attracts others. But remember this crucial distinction. Consistency isn't about rigidity, it's about reliability. You can be consistently flexible, consistently creative, consistently growing. I've seen this simple truth transform countless relationships. People don't ultimately trust those who occasionally dazzle them. They trust those who consistently show up for them. Here's a powerful practice I call the consistency journal. Each day, write down one promise you kept, one value you honored, one way you showed up reliably for others. Remember this, every time you follow through on your word, you're not just completing a task, you're building trust. Every time you show up as promised, you're not just being reliable, you're being transformative. Here's your challenge. For the next week, make only promises you know you can keep. Then, keep them completely. Watch how this shifts people's response to you, because here's the truth. The most charismatic people aren't those who occasionally shine the brightest. They're those who consistently show up, follow through, and remain true to their word and values. Are you ready to master this art? To let your consistency become your signature strength? To let your reliability become a cornerstone of your charisma? Because that's what we're learning here. Not how to create occasional moments of impact, but how to build lasting trust through unwavering consistency. That's the kind of charisma that builds legacies, deepens relationships, and creates enduring influence. Everyone talks about first impressions, but here's a truth that took me years to understand. Last impressions are just as powerful. How you leave a room, end a conversation, or close a meeting often determines how people remember the entire interaction. Let me share something I've discovered after decades of studying human behavior. People may forget what you said at the beginning, but they rarely forget how you made them feel at the end. Here's what most people don't understand about exits. They're not just about saying goodbye. They're about creating a bridge to your next interaction. They're about leaving people feeling better than you found them. I remember working with a charismatic speaker who could captivate audiences but struggled with endings. "I just stopped talking," he said. When he learned what I'm about to teach you about powerful exits, his impact didn't just last longer. It grew stronger over time. But let me ask you this. When was the last time someone's exit left you feeling uplifted, appreciated, or inspired? What did they do differently? More importantly, how did it affect your relationship with them? The truth about memorable exits is this. They're not about grand gestures or clever lines. They're about leaving people with a clear sense of their own value and a positive anticipation of your next encounter. Let me teach you the 3 levels of exit mastery. Level 1 is technical mastery. This is about the mechanics of good exits, timing, words, body language, and energy management. Level 2 is emotional impact. This is where you learn to leave people feeling specific positive emotions that enhance your entire interaction. Level 3 is legacy creation. This is where your exits don't just end interactions, they plant seeds for future growth and connection. Here's a technique I call the exit check. Before leaving any interaction, ask yourself, what feeling do I want to leave with them? What seed do I want to plant for our next encounter? I remember teaching this to a business consultant who rushed through her goodbyes. When she learned to make her exits as intentional as her entrances, her client relationships transformed completely. Now, here's what most people get wrong about exits. They think it's about having the last word. But powerful exits are about giving. Others the last feeling, a feeling that lingers and grows. Let me give you 5 principles for mastering the art of memorable exits. First, practice what I call the gratitude close. End every interaction with specific appreciation. Not just thanks, but I particularly appreciated how you. Second, master the art of future bridges. Plant seeds for future interactions. I'm looking forward to seeing how you develop that idea we discussed. Third, develop your exit timing. Learn to recognize and honor the natural end point of interactions. Don't drag them out, but don't cut them short either. Fourth, embrace the power of the personal touch. Make your final moments specific to the person and your shared experience. That insight you shared about leadership will stay with me. Fifth, cultivate what I call exit energy. Learn to leave people with more energy than they had when you arrived, not through force, but through genuine connection and appreciation. Here's something fascinating I've observed. When people master the art of exits, they don't just end interactions well. They transform how people remember and anticipate every interaction with them. But remember this crucial distinction. A powerful exit isn't about making yourself memorable. It's about making others feel valued and looking forward to your next encounter. I've seen this simple truth transform countless relationships. People may forget what you said, but they never forget how you left them feeling. Here's a powerful practice I call the exit journal. Each day, write down one exit that you handled particularly well and one you wish you'd handled differently. Learn from both. Remember this, every exit is an entrance to your next interaction. How you leave determines how welcome you'll be when you return. Here's your challenge. In your next 3 interactions, make your exits as intentional as your entrances. Focus not just on what you say, but on the feeling you leave behind. Because here's the truth. The most charismatic people aren't those who make the biggest entrance. They're those who make the most meaningful exit. Are you ready to master this art? To let your exits become as powerful as your entrances, to let your goodbyes become bridges to stronger relationships, because that's what we're learning here. Not how to end interactions, but how to create lasting, positive impressions that continue to grow long after you've left. That's the kind of exit that builds anticipation, deepens connections, and creates lasting impact. We've come to the most profound truth about charisma. It's not something you do, it's something you become. When connection moves from being a technique to being your identity, that's when true magnetic presence emerges. Let me share something I've learned after a lifetime of studying human relations. The most powerful form of charisma isn't about skills or strategies, it's about who you are at your core. It's about making genuine connection, not just your practice, but your natural way of being. Here's what most people don't understand about charismatic identity. It's not about becoming someone new, it's about becoming more authentically yourself in a way that naturally connects with others. I remember working with a leader who had mastered all the techniques of charisma, but still felt something was missing. It feels like I'm always performing, he said. When he learned what I'm about to teach you about making connection his identity, everything changed. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you felt completely natural in creating connection? When it wasn't about techniques or strategies, but just about being genuinely yourself? The truth about charismatic identity is this. It's not about adding something to yourself. It's about removing the barriers that prevent your natural ability to connect from shining through. Let me teach you the 3 levels of identity transformation. Level 1 is conscious competence. This is where you know the skills and can use them effectively when you think about them. Level 2 is unconscious competence. This is where the skills become so natural, you don't have to think about them anymore. Level 3 is identity integration. This is where connection isn't something you do, it's simply who you are. Here's a technique I call the identity check. Ask yourself, if connection were my natural state, how would I approach this situation differently? What would change if... This wasn't about doing, but about being. I remember teaching this to an executive who had memorized every rule of charismatic leadership. When she learned to let go of the rules and trust her authentic desire to connect, her influence deepened immeasurably. Now, here's what most people get wrong about charismatic identity. They think it's about becoming some idealized version of themselves. But real charismatic identity is about becoming more genuinely yourself in a way that naturally creates connection. Let me give you 5 principles for making connection your identity. First, practice what I call identity alignment. Make sure every technique you use aligns with your authentic self. If it doesn't feel natural, either adapt it or let it go. Second, master the art of natural presence. Learn to trust your intuitive ability to connect rather than always relying on learned techniques. Third, develop your connection confidence. Begin to see your natural way of relating to others as a strength, not something that needs to be completely transformed. Fourth, embrace the power of authentic evolution. Let your charismatic presence grow organically from who you are, not from who you think you should be. Fifth, cultivate what I call connection consciousness. Make genuine interest in others and authentic self-expression your default state, not something you have to remember to do. Here's something fascinating I've observed. When people stop trying to be charismatic and start being authentically connected, their influence grows exponentially. But remember this crucial distinction. Making connection your identity isn't about becoming someone different. It's about becoming more fully yourself in a way that naturally creates connection with others. I've seen this simple truth transform countless lives. The most powerful form of charisma isn't a mask you wear. It's the real you, fully expressed and genuinely connected. Here's a powerful practice I call the identity journal. Each day, write down one moment where connection felt completely natural, where you weren't using techniques but simply being yourself. Remember this, every time you choose authentic connection over performance, you're not just creating a moment of charisma, you're strengthening your identity as someone who naturally connects. Here's your challenge. For the next week, focus less on what you do and more on who you're being in your interactions. Watch how this shift changes everything. Because here's the truth. The most charismatic people aren't those who've mastered the most techniques. They're those who've made genuine connection their natural way of being. Are you ready for this transformation? To let go of performing and step into being? To let your natural ability to connect become the core of who you are? Because that's what we've been learning throughout these 90 days. Not just how to do charisma, but how to be charismatic. Not through techniques alone, but through genuine transformation. This is where all our learning comes together. The names, the stories, the questions, the presents, they're all tools to help you express who you truly are in a way that naturally connects with others. Remember, true charisma isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming so authentically yourself that connection becomes your natural state of being. This is your moment. Not to perfect your performance, but to trust your presence. Not to master techniques, but to manifest your truth. Because when connection becomes your identity, charisma becomes your natural state. The journey doesn't end here. It's really just beginning. But now you have everything you need to make connection not just something you do, but something you are. Are you ready to step into this new identity? To let your natural charisma shine through? To let connection become not just your practice, but your way of being? The world is waiting for your authentic presence. Let it shine.